going into these events, equipment's what matters. On our team, we're so talented. My job has fallen into like a role player's position. In order for Kyle or Brandon or Alex to make these moves, they need support so that we can win the tournament. And that's what I'm doing with this LV1. I'm able to go to a spot and get a lot of drop shots on people and really shoot just directly over a bunker where people think they're safe, and the next thing you know, I'm getting those kills. My name is Oliver Lang from San Diego Dynasty, and I shoot the LV1.
PaintballAccess.com will be bringing you all the action from the PSP Dallas Open live March 14th through the 16th. Don't miss it. Welcome to The Breakdown, brought to you by PbNation.com. Join the conversation, head to PbNation. I'm Matty Marshall alongside Todd Martinez. So the 2014 season is almost upon us. March 14th through the 16th, the first event, the Dallas Open, is going to be held in Texas and going to be broadcast by PaintballAccess.com. So we have new fantasy paintball coming at you for this season. So we wanted to kind of touch base a little bit here, talk about the top 10 players, and kind of, Todd, wanted to get your thoughts on how, talk a little bit about how we think these guys are going to match up, because so much chaos has reigned in the offseason. I mean, teams of guys have switched switched teams, and kind of the whole paintball landscape, at least at the very top end, is I wouldn't say completely been reset, but there's just been so much going on that it's almost impossible to predict and see what's going to happen here in the 2014 season. So, the top 5 guys, you have Oliver Lang, Dave Baines, Tim Montresor, Konstantin Fedorov, and Marcelo Margot. That's a pretty awesome top 5. How do you feel based on what we've seen so far this year? I mean, let's just start off with Oliver Lang. Oliver Lang, the Top Gun Award winner for 2013, kind of squeaked in there at the end. We thought Marcelo actually was going to take it. Marcelo also battled for it towards the end of 2012, and he ended up slipping out of the lead, got beat out by his teammate Alexander Burnikoff, who was the 2012 Top Gun Award winner. But this year was Oliver Lang. Now, Oliver Lang, he's kind of all over the place. Obviously one of the most versatile guys in the game. He can play every position. But they lost their main attacker, their front attacker on the D side of the field, Dalton Vanderbilt, and he's going to be playing for Tampa Bay Damage. So is that going to open things up for Oliver? Do you think he's going to get more spins?
I don't know if he's necessarily going to get more spins. We're going to see how that's going to play out. But I honestly think that Oliver is going to have another stellar season. I think he's actually going to be better than he was last year. I think a couple years ago he kind of tried to, find himself again and reinvent himself as a player. And 2 years ago he played well, but everybody was kind of giving him, ragging on him a little bit for saying, where's the real Oliver Lang at? And then last year, I really saw the way that he played was much different than the year before. So, it could go either way, but I think that it's going to go in the direction of he's only going to get better this year. I think he's going to start doing different things, having a different coach, having Rusty Glaze as the coach, and having the opportunities now probably to play more on that Dorito side and probably play more games if they don't pick anybody up, running with a 9-man roster. I really think that Oliver Lang is going to be better this year than he was last year.
Well, I think that that's a good point. He's definitely got a shot at doing it. I also, Oliver has he's been on a little pilgrimage here in the offseason, went to South America, spent a couple months down there. And so he's coming back and really, I think, going to be very much focused on this year. And we'll see, though. It's tough to tell. But Oliver did have that kind of, for Oliver, a subpar year in 2012, at least that's what a lot of the critics felt. But then, man, stormed back to win the Top Gun Award. I think a lot of it is going to come down to how well is Blake Yarber going to play in that one. Blake Yarber, awesome up-and-coming player, had a great year in 2013, and now with the loss of Dalton for San Diego Dynasty, it's going to be up to Coach Rusty Glaze and the rest of that core group to kind of figure out, okay, well, who is going to be our main one over here? Are we going to rotate that position? Who could potentially do that? They have a lot of versatile guys on that team. So it's not like they're lacking for talent. They're not lacking for attackers. It's just going to be who fits that role best this season, depending on the game plans they decide to go with. I think Oliver has a decent shot to get a little more playing time. That's going to help out his points played ranking a little bit, because all the guys on Dynasty, Oliver had, you get extra points for how many points you play. It's not a ton of extra, but it does help you out a little bit. So the guys like Damian Ryan, or that play a lot more, they have a little bit of boost in their stats because they play a lot of points and they have to go in the breach so many times. So I don't know, we'll see. Dave Baines, number 2. Edmonton Impact, such a leader on that team. Edmonton Impact has picked up a couple young guys. You know, they have Danny Park, Nick Laval from 187, Danny Park from the Ironman. They also picked up Rainey Stanzik coming off damage. He's a young guy, but he's very, very seasoned vet. I think, you know, how well is Dave going to, you know, Dave didn't honestly get a ton of playing time in some of those events because the layout, you know, Dave's a big guy. I mean, he's one of the best players of the past 10 years and ever. You know, you could put his success ratio up against any other player from any era, and Dave has had a stellar career. But it's going to be interesting to see how he stats this year and how well he does for the guys that pick him on fantasy. I think kind of it's going to come down to the layout and then, you know, I mean, you know, Nick Laval could also play the position he plays. Nick says he's probably going to be, you know, one of the main attackers on the D side. It's all going to come down to practice. What do you think?
I think you're absolutely right where it's going to kind of depend on the layouts. You know, the layouts where there was no back center, we didn't see Dave really play that much. The layouts where there was a back center, like Riverside last year, Dave dominated. I mean, he shot a guy on the break almost what it seemed like every single game. And then, you know, when Dave's in there and he's shooting people on the break and he gets in a rhythm, you know, he stats hard. So, I mean, I feel like it's going to kind of depend on the layouts, but Dave Baines is also, you know, the type of guy that, you know, if they really need somebody to step up, he's going to step up, you know, and losing guys like Moorhead, Montresor, and Sewers, you know, maybe Dave will just play more because they're going to need to depend on him more, you know, and Dave Baines is, you know, type player that can come in and get you tons of kills. So,
well, and also I think it bears mentioning that Dave, you know, okay, so even with all these field layouts that were pretty aggressive, Dave still ended up second overall. So there's something to be said about that. So I think regardless of the layout, I think that he's still going to be up there as long as he maintains that mental intensity that he's known for and still, I think, has that innate love for the game that he brings to every team that he plays on. So we'll see. Speaking of Tim Montresor, he's the next guy up, ranked 3rd overall. But Tim now making the move from Edmonton Impact over to Houston Heat as we saw the departure of the 3 Russian superstars. Off of Heat, they go to Art Chaos, who have to start in the Challengers division. And now Tim starting with this new team, but it's a new team for him, kind of really only in name. The coach, Jason Trojan, coached him on the Philly Americans, a now defunct but legendary paintball team that was around for a long time. And Tim was actually the captain of that team when it was winning tournaments and doing well. And now he's reunited with a bunch of guys on that squad, including the coach that used to play for the Philly Americans under the Houston Heat moniker. I think Tim could potentially have another really good year.
I think Tim is going to have a good year. I also feel like he's Jason Trojan's right-hand man. I feel like he is Jason Trojan with a paintball gun on the field. He's going to be the guy that is going to be the biggest leader on the field and helping Jason put guys in position to be successful. And, you know, it's hard to do it from the sidelines all the time. You know, when you have somebody that really understands the game the way that you understand the game, I feel like that's going to help the team more, so the team's going to be better, and that's going to help the coach more make better decisions. When I coached LA Infamous and I had Bobby Aviles, I could go to Bobby Aviles about anything because he thought the way I thought. He saw the game the way I saw the game, you know, and we could really work together. And I feel like now that Tim Montresor has Jason Trojan to work with as a coach, I feel like that whole team is going to be a lot better off, and it's going to help Tim's game. It's going to help everybody else's game. And when your front guys are playing well, it's really easy for the back guys to play well and just concentrate on doing their jobs.
Yeah, so let's move on to the 4th-ranked player overall, Konstantin Fedorov, man. And you know, he's ranked 4th overall on the stat board. I think in a lot of people's minds, Fedorov's arguably the best guy out there on any given day. Had some ridiculous performances this year and last year, and he is just one of those. I know he's one of your favorite players to watch play. Really kind of transcends what everyone else is doing out there. Really creative, and he is moving off of Houston Heat, the team that he's played for the past couple years, going to Art Chaos, who is going to be coming in. They're going to be starting in the Challengers division, so we're not actually going to see Art Chaos a ton until potentially the second event, depending on how they do. But, you know, I mean, as long as Fedorov is alive and his heart is beating, he's got a shot at the Top Gun title.
Well, before Oliver Lang won the Top Gun title the year before was Alexander Biernikov, and now they're on the same team.
Yeah.
The only thing that I fear about this as far as statistics go is the fact that you got so many good guys on the same team with Sergey, Mishka, Fedorov, Biernikov, now Axel Godin, Lukashuk going to Art Chaos. They have so many guys. I mean, it's not like Houston Heat didn't depend on Konstantin Fedorov to get all those kills because they had a ton of guys getting kills as well across the board. But, I mean, when you have another guy that's a potential Top Gun candidate on your team, then, you know, I don't think his statistics, you know, may or may not be as high. But, again, Konstantin Fedorov, new team, new something to prove. You know, he may come out and get 250 kills.
Yeah.
So, you never know.
I mean, we'll see. And then let's talk about our number 5 guy from 2013, Marcelo Margot from the Los Angeles Ironmen, staying with his team. And this is going to be a second year with the squad. Interesting story with the Ironmen. They're merging with San Jose Royalty. Shane Pestana, the most legendary paintball coach of all time, one of the most legendary players of all time, is going to be coming back to the team, bringing his young Royalty crew. And so that's going to be interesting to see how that all breaks down in the mix of the new Royalty blood with the Ironman crew and how they're going to, you know, what starting lineup are they going to come up with. And it's going to be tough for them to kind of work through that. But Marcelo Margot, man, for the past 2 seasons, he has really had some stellar events. Very consistent, methodical, calm, collected player, aggressive when he needs to be. I think he could make another run. I mean, it'd be stupid not to say that he wouldn't be, considering the numbers he's put up for the past 2 seasons. He was the Top Gun leader heading into World Cup in 2012. He was the Top Gun leader heading into World Cup in 2013. So, you know, if Vegas was making odds on it, I mean, you'd have to put him as probably the favorite to win the Top Gun because he's so consistently up there all the time.
Well, factors to consider. Having Shane Pestana come in as the coach. Shane Pestana will get the best out of Marcelo Margot. But merging with a new team and you have a bunch of young rookies coming on, half your team comes onto the half your guys come onto the team and they're all rookies. It's going to take them some time to get that experience. So they're going to depend on Marcelo Margot more to go out there and do more work, or is it going to hamper his game because he's playing with some inexperienced players that maybe don't understand how the team plays, how the pro game works? But I mean, Royalty, you know, they got some good players coming to the Ironmen, having that confidence. I mean, Nate Schrader, I've watched him come from DMG onto the Ironmen, and in that short period of time since he's played with the Ironmen, he has gotten significantly better, playing around Alex Goldman and Marcelo Margot. Marcelo Margot has also gotten better every single year. So, I mean, the trend is you know, going this way for Marcelo Margot. And, you know, you're absolutely right. I think that, you know, he's working harder than ever. He's got that type of mindset, and there's no reason to count him out for being the top guy, or at least in contention all season.
Yeah, so let's talk about the number 6 guy, Damian Ryan from Los Angeles Infamous. He is sticking with the Infamous crew, at least so far. You never know so far this year in the offseason. But, yeah, so Damian Ryan, you want to talk about one of the guys that just put in a ton of work for their team. I mean, you could make the argument that Damian Ryan was that overall MVP, to be honest. You know, he had so many kills, played so many points for Los Angeles Infamous. My question is Damian Ryan going to emerge as a leader off the field as much as he is a leader by example on the field? That remains to be seen. But Damian Ryan is such a pure killer out there, and you want to talk about, like you were just talking about, upward trajectory. Damian Ryan the past 2 seasons has been on fire, and I expect 2013 to be exactly the same, or 2014 to be the same. Yeah,
I mean, they picked up the Bornstein brothers. I think they lost, they may have lost Mayo. I'm not exactly sure. I'm still trying to find out about that. But the pickup of the Bornstein brothers I thought was really good for the Ironmen, or for Infamous, because that brings some more fire and some more weapons to help Damian Ryan out there. They still have Brad McCurley, Bobby Aviles, you know, Callie Rudolph, guys that can get the job done around him. But Damian Ryan, again, you know, year after year, he's out there to prove that he is the best player in the game. We know he's got that fire inside of him. He really wants it. And, you know, it's like every year is a contract year for Damian Ryan. You know, he just wants to go out there and wants to earn a contract, you know, with that mentality, you know, just go out there and dominate the game. So, you know, he wants his recognition. And, yeah, he could be a top 5 guy. You know, he only missed it by 1 spot this last season. So,
yeah, it'll be interesting to see. So the next guy up on the list, Carl Johan Samuelsson from the Tauntauns, actually didn't even play World Cup because of the controversy, and Tauntauns not able to make it to World Cup for financial difficulties, and also they received some penalties they didn't like, so it's a little bit of controversy there. And I don't think Carl was on the list. I didn't see him on the list for Moscow Red Legion, but somebody needs to pick him up because, you know, that guy he can play the game. You know, came out of the Joy Division camp. He's from Stockholm, was playing with the French team, but really just kind of rolled up and just started dominating out there, and he had a great year. So next up after that, number 8, Ryan Greenspan. I think that Ryan, with the loss of Dalton, if Ryan tries to get up in the mix, I mean, he could stat really well this year.
Ryan Greenspan, he's going to get his. Usually plays the 3 spot for San Diego Dynasty. We've seen him play the 2 spot a little bit here and there, depending on the field layout, depending on the lineup. But, I mean, Ryan Greenspan is going to get his. Like we said, arguably best player in the world. And, I mean, he's got a lot of competition over here in this top 10. And Dynasty, with 2 first-place finishes last year, overall series title, they're going to have to expect a lot from Ryan again in order to finish the same as they did last year.
Well, and to be honest, I think Ryan's going to be heated this year. Ryan passed up a really big cash money offer to play for Tampa Bay Damage to stick with San Diego Dynasty. So I think that, I mean, he always kind of plays. He's always played with a chip on his shoulder since he began, and I don't see that changing this year. He's getting a little older, but he hasn't slowed down at all. In fact, I'd say he's in better shape now than he was a couple years ago. He stays real active, does spearfishing. He's always hiking. He's always doing something crazy and physical. So, I don't see Ryan dropping off at all. And like you were saying, in fact, I think Ryan might actually have a better year this year than he did last year. Remains to be seen. But, yeah, Ryan Greenspan is definitely going to be in the hunt for that Top Gun award for sure. Also depends on how many spins he gets. Didn't get as many reps as some of the other stars in the league, but that's because Dynasty had such a solid roster and so much versatility that their coach Rusty Glaze did an amazing job. 2 second places and a third place or second place. They did an overall championship. Amazing performance by Dynasty last season. Next up after that, world champion Archie Montemayor, San Antonio X Factor. Man, talk about awesome performances at World Cup. San Antonio X Factor, who had, I wouldn't say an abysmal year, but it was one of those years where it was, they fought in those relegation matches a couple times. They were just underperforming all PSP season, and then totally redeems themselves at the World Cup, and they won it. They beat Edmonton Impact in the final, close come-from-behind match, too. And, Archie is that perennial superstar for that team. Plays a ton of points as well. Probably going to play a ton more points again here this season. And what do you think?
I mean, just like Ryan Greenspan, if he's a year older, he's a year smarter.
Yeah.
These are the guys that stat hard by shooting guys on the break, finishing games, winning low body scenarios. And Archie Montemayor, he's going to play a ton of points, just like you said. And I mean, he can do everything all over the field. He could play in the front if he wanted to, but I mean, he's just a constant finisher. He's a closer, and he's going to be up there in the stats no matter what. He may not be the guy that's going to get 200 kills and finish in the top 10, but I mean, as far as contributing to their team, he's definitely going to be. He's definitely one of those guys that's always going to be at the top of anybody's list.
And Archie, another guy that passed up cash deals to stay with San Antonio X Factor. So. These are loyal, Ryan Greenspan, Archie. I mean, there's some really loyal guys. A guy that you're not going to really hear us talk too much tonight because he finished 11th instead of 10th before we get into number 10 here. But Kyle Spica also passed up cash deal to play for Art Chaos to stick with San Diego Dynasty. So, still a lot of loyal guys out there really kind of wanting to fight with their brothers and see if, I mean, it's not like they're not getting anything on those teams, but they deserve the recognition for kind of chasing that dream in their own way. So let's talk about number 10 here before we sign off. Brian Smith, Tampa Bay Damage. I think Tampa Bay Damage is going to come out with a renewed fire this year. The management of that team really wanting to put the extra effort in this year, went after players, got Dalton, got Jacob Edwards back into the fold. They look really sharp. As always, I mean, Tampa Bay Damage has been one of the top teams. I mean, they won 3 events in a row from the end of 2011 to the beginning of 2012. Haven't found that success yet because of the emergence of Houston Heat, the resurgence of San Diego Dynasty, and I think Tampa's a little hungry this year. And Brian Smith actually had stepped away from the game for a little bit, but then came back and, finished 10th overall, coming back in. So Brian Smith, I think, depending on how many spins he gets on that snake side and his tenacity this year, I'm not questioning it, but when you're messing up against with all these other top 10 guys. We'll see. But he always looks so smooth, man. He's just got that amazing style to it. Yeah, I just like watching him play.
Yeah, he actually missed an event last year, and I mean, finished in the top 10, only playing 4 events. I mean, this guy is so just naturally talented at paintball. He's one of those guys that there aren't a whole lot of other players that play exactly the way he does. And, you know, he is a guy that's capable of going every point. His coach, Skinny Kevin Brettauer, is really good at utilizing his talent. And, I mean, if he can get Brian Smith in there every point, he will. You know, Brian Smith, he's all about winning. You know, he's not about stats, but just the way that he plays, you know, and the way he contributes to this team. Yeah, if he's up there, then it's not going to be any big surprise to me at all.
Yeah, so there it is. Top 10 players from the 2013 season on the PBA stat ranking. So who is going to be in 2014? Who's going to be your top pick for fantasy? Well, it remains to be seen. Remember, March 14th through the 16th, the first event of the PSP season is coming up very soon. It's going to be brought to you by PaintballAccess.com. This breakdown was brought to you by PbNation.com. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'm Matty Marshall with Todd Martinez. See you guys next time.
How many countries I've visited,
how many miles you've traveled,
how many paintballs you've shot at different people,
how much baby powder I've used, how many hotels we've trashed,
how many places I've driven,
how many guns I've gone through,
how much I love the game.
All the times that you had to tell your family that you couldn't be there for this or that because you were going to play paintball.
How many friends I've gotten out of it.
That's just why I love paintball.
That's why I love paintball.
That's why I love paintball.
But that's why I love paintball.
There are massive opportunities, both with the sport of paintball and for your business. If we are successful in taking our sport to another level, unite with Paintball Access in our quest to elevate paintball and broadcast it to the world. There are advertising packages available for any size business. Join us. Advertise with PBA and help us change the sport for the better forever.